Hey, good evening, folks. It's Monday, February 7th, 2022. It's right around 6:30 in the evening. Nightmare and I over here, we're taking a little walk. Still kind of cool. I believe it's a high 40s, low 50s right now. And man, all the stuff coming out of Canada. Looks like Nightmare found a scent buffalo over here. Trust me, it's like walking a truck at times. Anyway, all the stuff coming out of Canada, it's starting to make me wonder, right? So they had this huge peace protest, and I mentioned it before in my post. Nightmare actually found a cat, so I'm fighting with him to get him off the scent. Anyway, there we go. So they had this they're having this huge peace protest, and it's been peaceful. And I'm sure some of you that are watching this, or at least those of you that are watching this, have probably already seen the videos of the police confiscating the gas, the propane, the diesel fuel from just supporters trying to supply the trucks. Now, unlike here in the great state, Canada, especially Ottawa, gets pretty freaking cold. We're talking below zero. I think they said minus 30 Celsius, whatever the heck that works out to be. But it's below zero. And when you're talking about trucks that run on diesel fuel in those temperatures, if you don't keep them running, they got more to worry about than just the trucks running out of fuel. Because you can put more, well, if it's possible to even put more fuel into them, because unless the fuel is kept warm, it tends to thicken up. And once any vehicle runs out of fuel these days, you have a hard time restarting it anyway. So they've got that problem. And the law enforcement officers, if you will, are literally beginning to arrest the supporters that are trying to resupply the trucks and the vehicles with fuel, as well as propane to keep them warm. So they're starting to arrest people for this shit. Now here's one of the other problems that they've got. Reportedly, 50% of the police force has decided to resign. Problem number one. Problem number two. Tow trucks, and this actually is problem number one for them, but the tow truck companies have refused to get involved. They don't want anything to do with this shit. And now the military has stepped up and said that they're siding with the people. You heard that right. Canadian military is siding with the people. Now here's where it's going to get greasy. Reports are coming out claiming that they're about to bus in to Ottawa, which is the main center of where this protest is occurring. Law enforcement officers, special tactic type law enforcement officers. And I want to talk about that for a second. Now, see, these guys, I'm sure they're fully vaxxed. And getting off topic for a second, not really, but kind of off topic for a second. When I was staying at the La Quinta Inn here, courtesy of Project Endeavors, nearby was the military recruiting center. And I spoke to several different recruiters from the different branches. All of them had been vaxxed. And when I asked them why they were willing to accept uh, an unlawful vax and explained to them that even the lowliest private is supposed to know the difference between a lawful order and an unlawful order, their response, every single one of them, was that I had to take it in order to keep my job. And that makes me think of the excuses of Hitler's, and yes, I'm comparing them to Hitler's troops, Hitler's Nazis at the Nuremberg trials. I was just following orders. I had to follow orders if I wanted to keep my job. That's what every lowlife says. Every one of these conformists that they're more than happy to follow orders against their better judgment. So if they're willing to allow somebody to inject them with an experimental poison, when do they draw the line? Oh, they'll tell you that they won't go against the people. Really? They'll tell you that they'll uphold their oath, their, as I like to put it, the sacred oath. Really? Because seems like an enemy of the people, an enemy of the Constitution, is an administration that pushes something via executive mandate, via fiat, if you will, onto the people unlawfully. So to me, they're not following lawful orders to begin with. And if they're doing it just to keep their jobs, what's next? When, like I say, when do they draw the line? The answer is probably never. Up in Canada, the military put their foot down. There are still more of us than there are of them. But here in America, the resident-in-chief is starting to fire members of the military, discharging them, if you will, that refuse the vax. But the ones that are left in, they're compliant. And my gut feeling tells me that they will remain compliant. Because don't forget, it wasn't just a couple of people, a couple of Nazis. There were battalions of them. That's what was needed to suppress, to control. Look at Australia. Australia is another good example. Those same people that are forcing their fellow citizens into what amounts to concentration camps. Oh yeah, they call them unvaccinated camps or vaccine camps, whatever the hell, COVID camps. But they're putting their fellow citizens in there. And, I'm sorry, but if your friends or your family members are vaxxed, to whatever extent, nothing can stop them. Nothing can stop what's coming. There's no way of going back. There's no cure. There's no what do you call it? Antidote for the vaccine. There just isn't. Once vaxxed, they're vaxxed. So when do they turn around? Well, I'll tell you right now, the people that are vaxxed, they won't stop until it's too late. I'm literally being dragged around by my damn dog. So you have to make decisions. And I've been saying this right along. I was in a situation where I was literally surrounded by neighbors and friends that had all accepted the vax. And I chose to leave. I've got family, most of my family back in the former Empire State, all vaxxed. And I didn't want to stand around and wait until they started to die. And maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe that makes me not too good of a person. But I tried. I tried to freaking warn these people. Nobody wanted to listen to me. In fact, my family long ago classified me as crazy Uncle Jim. And yet they're the ones that accepted the experiment. They took their chances. So we're in a situation right now where there's no turning back. There's only forward motion, and you have to make choices now. If you want to stick around with your family and friends that are vaxxed, beware of the shedding. Thinning your blood isn't going to help you. Of course, if you get cut, you'll bleed out faster. Trust your gut in this situation, not your heart. Your heart's going to fuck you over. But have faith. God does have our six. I truly believe that. Hey, God, thanks for another beautiful day. Amen. Great nightmare.